Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever we love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you.
Well, good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Church of Toledo on this November 19th, 2023 date. I'm Joe Moran, today's service associate, and I will be assisting our commission lay minister, David Strickland, behind me, and our music is provided by our music director, Jeffrey Maxey, joined by our First Unitarian Choir, and vocalist Tom Sheehan will present our centering music. We are a church with no doctrine or official creed. Instead, we covenant to support each other in our search for truth and meaning. We live out these principles through diverse sources, and this is a lifetime journey. If you identify with these goals, you will find a home in this place. If you're a visitor, you may notice in the pew rack in front of you a rainbow-colored card with our principles and sources. Please feel free to take it with you. There's also a yellow card that you may use to introduce yourself to us. And if you include your email, we will send you our weekly email with news of our various activities. As you meet people today, feel free to introduce yourself and ask any questions you might have. We also welcome those of you who are joining us today virtually on YouTube. We welcome you. And later in this service, I will encourage you to attend our coffee and conversation hour after this service. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. As Joe lights the chalice, let's all say the words for the chalice lighting that we are using this church year, and they should appear here momentarily. We are Unitarian Universalists with minds that think, hearts that love, and hands that are ready to serve. Together we care for our earth and work for friendship and peace in our world.
Now please join us as we recite our covenant, which can be found in the order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
On our minds and in our hearts this week are the ongoing armed conflicts in Israel and Gaza and in Ukraine. Too many lives have already been lost, so we continue to hope for de-escalation and restraint, to prioritize steps to secure the release of the hostages, to hold all parties accountable to the Geneva Conventions, and to call on our elected officials to support protection for refugees and non-combatants. Closer to home, many of us are looking forward to the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday. But before Thursday arrives, I note a few things. First, tomorrow, November 20th, is the Transgender Day of Remembrance. This observance started as a vigil to honor the memory of Rita Hester, a transgender woman who was murdered in Allston, Massachusetts in November 1998. With so many religious and political leaders currently seeking to erase transgender people, it is vitally important that those who we have lost are remembered and that we continue to fight for justice for all. This entire week, November 19th to the 26th, has been designated as National Bible Week. And I'm going to insert a comment here. I want to thank Walter McGee back there. He added a lot. I asked him to put in one slide for today. You'll see a number of slides that really bring the announcements and the sermon to life, I believe. This week is National Bible Week, declared in 1941 by President Franklin Roosevelt. This week is meant to encourage reading the Bible. So in that spirit, I'll read and share a verse that I think is important. Matthew chapter 25, verse 36. Jesus said, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in." This week has also been designated as Church and State Separation Week. Probably not a coincidence. As Americans, we ought to be reading the U.S. Constitution as well and the related historical documents to better understand our rights as well as the role of government. So in the spirit of balanced coverage, I'll read an excerpt from Thomas Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptist Association sent January 1802. "Believing with you that religion is a matter which lies solely between man and his God, that he owes account to none other for his faith or his worship, that the legitimate powers of government reach actions only and not opinions, I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people, which established that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state." And most importantly, for our spirits this week, let us remember that holidays such as Thanksgiving can be times of joy and merriment, as well as times of stress, anxiety, and even loneliness. Let us continue to hold members, supporters, friends of our congregation, and family in our hearts and with our spirits. Let us be thankful that we are together in fact and in spirit. There is a change in our order of service today. The hymn listed in the order of service has been changed. We're going to sing number 1046, "Shall We Gather at the River?" So please rise as you're willing and able for the opening hymn. The lyrics should appear on the screen.
Shall we gather at the river?
is called Worthy of Beauty, and it was written by Paul S. Sawyer, who is a UU minister who lives in Vermont. And he writes, "Some years ago, I worked at an intensive day school for children with emotional and behavioral disabilities. These were tough kids, and they had led tough lives. And with some regularity, one of them would lash out physically. Part of my job was to take care of those kids, to talk to them, and, if necessary, to physically restrain them to protect them and the other kids. The school building was a majestic, converted old Victorian house, and every holiday we would decorate its grand entryway with lights, garlands, and a well-trimmed artificial Christmas tree. Within days of putting up those decorations, one of our students would invariably end up taking out their anger on that holiday scene. The garlands would be torn off the wall, the decorations scattered, and the tree left lying on its side with the branches strewn about the floor. It became part of our staff's afternoon routine that, after the children had left for the day, we would put that room back together. We made repairs, returned the decorations to where they belonged, and set the tree back up in its stand so that when the kids came back the next morning, the room looked festive again. I asked the principal of the school why we didn't just get rid of the decorations. Why spend all this time decorating a space just so the kids could take it apart? It seemed like we would have an easier time if we just left them down. The principal said, "We could do that, sure. But do you believe that our kids deserve some beauty in their lives?" I said, "Of course they do." And she said, "These kids have been told their whole lives, by words and by actions, that they don't deserve beauty or even anything really fun. So we'll keep at it. We'll keep putting the room back together. We may have to do it every day. We need to prove to our kids that we are not willing to give up on them. And if we do our jobs right, eventually they will get it and we will no longer have to put the room back together." And then she said, "We just have to be willing to put the room back together one more time than the kids are willing to take it apart." I remain proud that I got to work in a school that chose love and hope every day for kids that, honestly, it would have been easy to give up on, kids that were used to people giving up on them. It was a small thing, that decorated room, but the kids noticed. I'm sure that those decorations and many other little actions that we took there every day made a difference. It certainly made a difference to me and my belief in the power of true, tenacious love. My principal was right, by the way. By the second week of the holiday season, those decorations almost always made it through.
This is the time when our children and their teachers leave the service for religious education activities. So let's take this opportunity to sing for them as they leave.
As you go on your way, may you be filled with gladness. Go in joy, go in joy. May fortune bless your day with peace and loving kindness. Go in love, go in love.
Do I would be true, for there are those that trust me. I would be pure, for there are those that care. I would be strong, for there is much to suffer. I would be brave, for there is much to dare. I would be friend of all the foe, the friendless. I would be giving and forget the gift. I would be humble, for I know my weakness. I would look up and laugh and love and live.
Thank you for that beautiful piece. Today I have a meditation written by John Rodell, who I understand is a comic, a story writer, and a poet. Following this reading, we'll observe a minute of silence for personal contemplation or prayer. Love is Bigger Than War by John Rodell. I can't make the world be peaceful. I can't stall tanks from roaring down the roads. I can't prevent children from having to hide in bunkers. I can't keep a madman from creating heartbreaking headlines. I can't convince the news to stop turning war into a video game. I can't turn a guided missile into a bouquet of flowers. I can't make a warmonger have an ounce of empathy. I can't convince diplomats to quit playing truth or dare. I can't stave off a schoolyard being reduced to ash and rubbles. I can't do any of that. The only thing I can do is love the next person I encounter without any conditions or strings. To love my neighbor so fearlessly that it starts a ripple that stretches from one horizon to the next. I can't force peace on the world, but I can become a force of peace in the world. Because sometimes all it takes is a single lit candle in the darkness to start a movement. Oh, Spirit of life and love, let me be a candle of comfort in this world. Let me burn with peace.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
I share this reading, Building a Liberal and Liberating Theology by Reverend Sophia Betancourt. Reverend Betancourt was elected as the 10th president of the Unitarian Universalist Association in June of this year. Liberation grounded in the perspectives and lived experiences of people of the global majority demands ongoing reflection and action. It requires the presence and wisdom of many to fully embrace. If we are to build from a liberal to a liberal and liberating theology, as I'm called to do, we cannot do so outside of the covenants and commitments of our community. So let us build a Unitarian Universalism together that is humble, that expects little from those who have made such a sacrifice, and that prioritizes its commitments to faithful living even when we don't know quite how to make our way. That is the Unitarian Universalism that I believe in. Right now, I think it's on a journey, somewhere from liberal to liberation. And I'm orienting myself toward the day when those words have new and fully empowered meanings in this world.
Good morning, and season's greetings to all who are attending in person and to all who have joined from distant places or perhaps even earlier time zones. I appreciate your interest and support. I'm sure you're all aware that Thanksgiving happens this Thursday, and I'm fairly confident that you're familiar with the idealistic tale of the first Thanksgiving, how those pilgrim settler colonialists gave thanks, shared a feast, and celebrated with a group of the neighboring indigenous peoples, the Wampanoag. However, I wonder, what tales did the Wampanoag guests later tell their friends and relatives that day? Did they consider the day significant? Given that half the English folks had died within 3 months of settling at Pawtuxet, and given that the indigenous folks showed the remaining settlers how to grow crops in that unfamiliar climate, the Wampanoag guests might have been surprised that any of those ill-prepared English folks survived a full year. And as for those pilgrims, I suspect that they would be surprised too. Surprised that 4 centuries later, their autumn harvest festival would come to signify the beginning of an annual, unholy holiday season, namely Christmas. Indeed, in December 1621, just 1 month after that first legendary harvest celebration, the governor of Plymouth Colony, William Bradford, found some of the colony's residents trying to take Christmas Day off. He did not hesitate to order them back to work. The written records of Christmas in New England during the next several decades are scarce. Indeed, Massachusetts almanacs from the 17th century did not refer to December 25th as Christmas Day. That date was generally left without comment, other than occasionally giving notice that one of the county courts was due to sit that day, an implicit reminder that it was just another work day. Back in merry old England, the Puritans who had remained there to purify the established Church of England had gained political power in the 1640s. As the majority party in Parliament, they executed King Charles I, and they passed a law banning the celebration of Christmas. Not to be outdone, the Massachusetts Bay Puritans also passed a law that levied a 5-shilling fine on anyone who was found observing any such day as Christmas or the like, either by forbearing of labor, feasting, or any other way. So why did the Pilgrims and the Puritans dislike Christmas so much? Perhaps the reason is as simple as the definition offered by the American journalist and essayist H.L. Mencken. He defined Puritanism as the haunting fear that someone, somewhere, may be happy. More likely, the Puritans read the Bible very carefully, and they noted that there were no direct references to Christmas in there. 2 of the gospel writers described different versions of the birth of Jesus, but there's no biblical or historical reason to place his birth on December 25th. Jesus' apostles did not commemorate his birthday. Paul's letter to the Romans or the Galatians or the Colossians or anyone else did not entreat those early churches to observe Christmas. The Roman Catholic Church did not recognize Christmas as a holiday until 3 centuries after Jesus' death. So the Puritans knew that Christmas was nothing but a pagan festival covered with a Christian veneer. By the 17th century, things had gotten worse. Christmas festivities in England were marked by gambling, drunkenness, and other ungodly behaviors. As the New England minister Increase Mather commented, the generality of Christmas keepers observe that festival after such a manner as is highly dishonorable to the name of Christ. How few are there comparatively that spend those holidays, as they're called, after a holy manner. But they are consumed in playing at cards, in revelings, in excess of wine, and in mad mirth. Although the Puritan laws of Old England and New England were repealed a few decades later, Christmas did not emerge as a major holiday in Britain or America until the mid-19th century. Thus, that first war on Christmas was waged by God-fearing Christians who wanted to purify both the church and the wider society by outlawing activities and festivities that they considered unholy. During subsequent centuries, there were skirmishes over Christmas observances in other countries, such as France during their famous Revolution. In the 1920s, here in the U.S., Henry Ford revealed an aspect of his anti-Semitism when he blamed the Jews for his concern that most people had a hard time finding Christmas cards that indicated in any way that Christmas commemorated someone's birth. In 1959, the far-right John Birch Society published a pamphlet alerting the nation to an assault on Christmas carried out by UN fanatics. The opening salvos in the current American war on Christmas started in the late 1990s. Apparently, the war was fully underway in December 2004 when Bill O'Reilly sounded the alarm. Christmas, is under siege. During his Fox News show, he strung together a series of anecdotes from around the country to justify his claim of a war on Christmas. For example, the city of Denver had erected a holiday tree rather than a Christmas tree. In New York City, Macy's asked their employees to greet customers with Happy Holidays rather than Merry Christmas. I don't believe that Denver or Macy's or anyone else outlawed Christmas activities or levied any fines. Many employees in Denver, New York, and across the country continue to receive Christmas Day off, while those who celebrate other religious holidays, such as Diwali, had to spend personal vacation days for their celebrations. The following year, O'Reilly offered an important insight into his concern about the so-called liberal war on Christmas. He said that every company in America should be on its knees thanking Jesus for being born. Without Christmas, most American businesses would be far less profitable. Thus, these modern claims of a war on Christmas are bad faith arguments because they aren't based on anything in the Bible, and they don't refer to any of Jesus' teachings. One might even say that such disingenuous claims are fake news or tactics that are employed in the broader conflict known as the culture wars. These two groups, the 17th century Puritans and the contemporary Christian warriors, both emphasize careful reading and interpretation of the Bible to specify beliefs and behaviors. And yet they profess opposite opinions about observing Christmas. This discrepancy points to a shared theological characteristic. Each group holds to theology that emphasizes authority and control. The Puritans believed that a wrathful God would punish the entire community if sinful behaviors were allowed to proliferate. Thus, they rigidly enforced community standards. Offenders might be required to wear a letter of shame. You may be familiar with the red A for adulterer. But there were also the options to wear a B if you were a blasphemer, or a D for drunkards. Church attendance was mandatory. Those that missed church were regularly subjected to a fine. The church might be patrolled by a man who held a long pole so that he could tickle the chins of old men who fell asleep, or perhaps prod children who giggled or slept. In Massachusetts, magistrates reprimanded anyone who interrupted a preacher during worship. If they interrupted twice, then the offender had to pay a fine of £5 and stand on a block 4 feet high with a sign in capital letters, "Wanton Gospeler." Now I'll admit, I am intrigued by the idea of bringing that one back. These rules may seem silly from our perspective, but some contemporary conservative Christians hold a similar viewpoint. Namely, God grants blessings and curses on nations and people based on their allegiance and obedience to Him. If things are going well, you're living right. If things are going badly, you must be living wrong. For example, following the terrorist attacks on September 11th, the televangelist Jerry Falwell said that the devastating attack occurred because of pagans, abortionists, feminists, the gays and the lesbians, and the ACLU. Thus, those behaviors and those people must be controlled in order for the community to avoid God's punishments. So we've seen that these conservative theologies that emphasize control provide justification for church authorities to determine correct beliefs, to compel some behaviors, and to prohibit other behaviors. In contrast, Unitarian Universalist theology embraces the principles of liberalism and, to some extent, liberation. Religious liberalism emphasizes freedom of belief. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religion, partly because we do not have a creed or a statement of belief that all members must agree to. Our fourth principle affirms a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Some people mistakenly describe UUs as the church where you can believe anything. Such flippant statements focus on the word free while overlooking the word responsible. Our freedom of belief is not absolute because it is tempered by that word responsible. If your freely chosen belief causes injury or harm to others, or demeans their inherent worth and dignity, then you really need to consider whether or not it is responsible. If your freely chosen belief causes damage to the interconnected web of all existence, then you need to reconsider your belief. So we see that liberalism refers to individual freedoms. In contrast, liberation emphasizes creating and restoring relationships that unshackle people and communities from systems of oppression. So in recent decades, several UU ministers and theologians have commented that liberal attempts to work for human freedom are not enough, and that we have much to learn from liberation theology. So this concept, liberation theology, did not originate within Unitarian Universalism. It was developed independently in two different contexts around 1970. In Latin America, Roman Catholic priests observed the poverty, dehumanization, and social injustices in the region. In response, they developed a theology which starts from the viewpoint of the poor. This approach was radically different from existing theologies, which typically start with a theory and then trickle down to the masses. The Peruvian priest Gustavo Gutierrez wrote one of the movement's defining books, which in English translation is entitled A Theology of Liberation. About the same time, in the United States, James Cone synthesized an approach called Black liberation theology. Cone had studied with a well-known theologian, Karl Barth, and earned a PhD in theology. Cone was heavily influenced by Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and other black preachers and authors, some who made the unusual, discomforting claim at the time that Jesus was not white. These two strands of liberation theology both recognized that Jesus clearly identified with the lowly and the oppressed. Thus, they asserted that theology should start from the perspective of the oppressed rather than the perspective of the wealthy or the powerful. This starting point contrasts to the disingenuous claims of the gospel of wealth televangelists and Bill O'Reilly's gratefulness for corporate profits. In today's reading, our UUA president, Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, described building a UU theology that is both liberal and liberating. Reverend Betancourt's words admonish us against placing expectations on those who have been made to sacrifice so much already, which suggests that the expectations on those of us who have had privilege will be greater. By prioritizing justice and equity, we may need to forego some personal gain or privilege. This perspective, I argue, is consistent with the biblical message to welcome the stranger. Neither the God of the Old Testament or the Jesus of the New Testament deliver this message because it is easy. Finding ways to welcome refugees, immigrants, strangers in our community or at our national border requires time and resources. Moreover, it can feel uncomfortable or even scary. Reverend Betancourt warns us to be humble. I'm not quite sure what she intended with that word, but it prompted me to think of the word woke. At one point, to be woke simply meant to be alert to racial prejudice and discrimination, and as such, it had a generally positive connotation. And then the backlash started. Perhaps the word was overused, or perhaps some folks felt defensive. Or perhaps some of the backlash was due to woke liberals coming across as condescending or impatient. So if you consider yourself woke to social injustices, just remember that to be woke also implies that you were once asleep. So stay humble and be gentle, especially if you attempt to wake up your family and friends during the Thanksgiving meal. Reverend Betancourt states that reflecting and acting for liberation requires the presence and wisdom of many to fully embrace. To me, that phrase, wisdom of many, is the polar opposite of authority and control. Finally, she tells us that Unitarian Universalism is on a journey somewhere from liberal to liberation, and that it requires complementary activities of reflection and action. Thus, it is a worthwhile journey because liberation is a promise that we can do better than we have done before. Liberation offers communal wellness. So may you all, near and dear, near and far, have a Merry Thanksgiving and a Happy Christmas. Blessed be.
So we now come to the offering portion of our service. If you will aim, if we can bring that QR code up, if you'll aim your phone to that code you will see on the slide, that is one way that you can support the mission and the work of this church. You can also mail an offering to our address, 3205 Glendale Avenue, 43614 is a zip, or you can drop off an offering in the basket in the foyer of the church as you leave. On the back of the pews, you'll also find a yellow envelope in which you can place donations and also drop that in the basket in the foyer as you leave. If you believe what the world needs now is a religion based on mutual respect, love, and inclusion, then you realize why supporting First Unitarian Church of Toledo is more important than ever. And your gifts help us achieve those goals. And we thank you for those.
Please join in singing our offertory hymn, number 1010, We Give Thanks.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for gathered here in this far away, for this time we shared, and with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. We give thanks for this precious day, for for gathered here in this far away, for this time we shared, and with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for gathered in this far away, for this time we shared, and this love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
And I give thanks for this precious music. Thank you. This is a good opportunity for me to renew the call for new choir members. Singing is a good way to be together, whether your voice is an elder's or a youngling's. You help our services, you learn new music, and you get to work with our wonderfully supportive and patient music director, Jeffrey Maxey. This is an especially good time to come into our music program as our seasonal all-music service comes up on December 17th. Then we'll have a Christmas Eve service of lessons and carols on December 24th after our regular service that morning. Rehearsals are Thursdays, so if you want to sing, please see Jeffrey.
7 p.m.
7 p.m. Thank you. During this coming soon part of the service, we'll tell you what's on the calendar for the next few weeks and give some important announcements and let you know what's up right after the service. I'll confess that 2 additional announcements have been added since I arrived this morning. First, next Sunday at 9:45 a.m. for Spiritual Forum, Jenny Gottman will be leading an activity about This Land Is Your Land, the song by Pete Seeger, when and why it was written, and what does it mean today. And in support of my commitment to banjo ministry, or perhaps banjo theology, I'll provide some musical accompaniment. So please come and sing along. Next Sunday at 11 for the regular Sunday service, our senior minister, Reverend Dr. T.K. Barger, will lead the service entitled Leftovers. So here are the extra announcements. This Saturday, Friends Thanksgiving will take place here. It'll be Saturday. You can arrive about 2 to 3 in the afternoon. We will share a turkey prepared by Carla Logan Mercer. We will also share the potluck items that you bring. There will be games afterwards. This is open to all members, friends, visitors. Anyone's welcome to attend. The other important holiday announcement is that we have a holiday giving tree in back there where you take the stockings that list gifts and ages and then sign your name on the registration board so that they know who's taken what. Bring the gifts here by December 12th. There'll be a wrapping party December 15th. If you have any questions, or if you'd prefer to give money or gift cards, you may talk to Sue Childers, who is in the kitchen as well with Carla.
Okay, and a couple more items for coming soon. Just a reminder, the annual church bazaar runs through 3 p.m. this afternoon. It's in Fellowship Hall down the hallway to our left. Be sure to stop by and look for some of the wonderful items that are for sale. And we thank Melanie Christensen and all the volunteers and contributors who spent so much time and effort putting this together. Later today at 5:30 p.m., the First Unitarian Men's Group meets in Fellowship Hall. And the purpose of this group is to build fellowship, promote friendship, provide support to each other, and discuss issues that are relevant to UU-ism. Also a reminder, immediately after the service, coffee hour and social time. It will be held in Fellowship Hall. Everyone is invited to come and enjoy coffee and conversation, and you can peruse the bazaar items at the same time. Thank you.
I will read our standard words for the chalice extinguishing when they appear on the screen here, and I hope you will join in reciting the words as Joe extinguishes the chalice flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our postlude will be hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us, in the gray hymnal. Please feel free to sing along.